Hi, everyone. Let's start. So I'm here today to introduce you the Linnia project. And I'm going to start with this very simple question. Who owns you? So first, who am I? So here you have some information about my background. I've been an engineer in a R&D and telco company. I've been a PhD student in computer science, and today I'm working as a blockchain architect at Consensus for the Linnia project. I'm also very into community events, association, mentoring hackathons. So if you have any question about that, you can just come and discuss with me during ETCC. And so today, I'm working on a protocol and a UX effort for longitudinal data management for Web 3.0 application. So let me introduce you Web 2.0, your toxic frame. So when I asked you who owns you, the answer is nobody. Nobody owns you. However, Web 2.0 is a friend that don't really let you own your data. It's a friend that you can spend time with, discussing, and everything that he's going to do is take your personality, your information, monetize it, don't give you any control over the process, and don't give you a penny about that. And there's something even worse, the single sign-on issue. I don't know if you realize that, but I believe that Google or Facebook are handling much more identities than some governments in some countries. So today, identity is being centralized by actors that are not government country, but digital actor. So all this is the web that we are currently living in. So the goal of Linnia is to offer a decentralized platform for storing and sharing our longitudinal data of any type, which uses technology to achieve two opposing aims: protecting our privacy while letting our data flow to its best possible use for us. So what that means is, yes, we want to give back the control over the data to the user, but it doesn't mean that the user has to become a bottleneck. So what Linnia wants is more governance for the people, but also an increased experience for application developer to leverage on user data. And I'm going to walk you through that. So first, we need to share some assumptions. First one is, our longitudinal data of any kind creates value. Longitudinal data is not data that you collect when you're having an accident, or where you're buying a house, or when you're getting sick. Longitudinal data is every data that you collect when you're living in your house, when you're driving your car every day, and any metric of your healthcare that you're collecting every day. So the goal is to gather information in a very, very long time period about each individual, thus enabling new kind of potential and opportunities for services in AI, big data, and things like that. So all this is good, but we need a place to store and share this data. Some people, they're like, okay, so we're just going to ask people to store their own data. But I don't think people want to have in their living room a server in the database to manage their own data. This is not a credible option, even for the most purists of us. However, they don't want data center to be controlling their data and monetizing the data without their permission. So what is the compromise that we can find here? Decentralization. If we can decentralize the storage of the data and the permissioning, we can solve the UX issue that we're having, which is the user doesn't need to be like really deep into tech to be able to manage his data. And at the same time, he needs to get back the control over it. So we are losing a battle, the UX battle. So even if Linnia is a protocol, there is a huge UX effort, a huge UX research in Linnia. Why? Because if you're not able to be better at UX than Google or Facebook, people, they're just going to keep using those services, single sign-on, because it's much more easier to click on a button than to create a wallet, and you need to secure your keys and all this stuff. People, they don't care about that today. So if you're not able to be better than them, then the Web 3.0 will never exist. So here is a view of the architecture that we are offering. So you can find at the bottom layer, identity. Everything is based on identity. If you can have self-sovereign identity, then you can build layer for self-managed data. Once you have self-managed data, anything is possible. Any vertical can be plugged in that. Linnia is agnostic. We started with healthcare for obvious reason, but social data, your home data, mobility data, your photos, everything can be stored through Linnia and accessed. And as you can see, this is not siloed. So the basis is common, meaning that you can create new kind of use cases. For example, I believe we can have like hackathon every week just finding new examples. We can have like people thinking, how can I link health data to mobility? Like how my movements, my driving affects my health or my sleep or the photo that I'm taking about my food, what is the impact of that? Like you can link everything and create new kind of services that today you cannot do. For one simple reason, if you're creating a new app, you don't have the data to do that. So you need to get adoption, you need to recreate a database, and it takes you time, and then you can be able to give a service. But here with this architecture, you can create an algorithm, very simple one, you can plug it to the architecture, and because people are using Linnia and other applications running on top of Linnia, you might already have like 6 months of data. You just have to get the permission from the user, and you can run your algorithm and give a result on the spot. So this is a new way of doing things. So we were talking about identity. So if you look at the technical paper that we just released in the team, we are introducing this concept of singleton. So in computer science, a singleton is a class that has only one instance of itself. And we like that idea because it conveys a sense of uniqueness, which is what identity is. In your real life, you're just one person. So in digital life, you should be also one person. However, you have multiple facets. Just like in your real life, if you're a doctor and you're a diabetic and you may be driving a Tesla, all those facets are going to be used depending on the context. When you're interacting with the Tesla services, only the Tesla customer facet is interesting. When you're going to the hospital, they only care about the fact that you're holding a degree in medical studies, so they're going to give you access to some files. So with the singleton and with HD keys, so we're really leveraging HD keys with the concept of master key and child keys to create that dual concept of uniqueness and having manifold facets. So how to reconnect the user to its data? Because that's the question. We're working on 7 verticals. I won't have the time to dive into each one during the session, but I recommend that you read the technical paper. So we have decentralized identity. We've been over it. Decentralized storage, you can also imagine that we are going to be working with projects like IPFS, Swarm, and other identity. It will be like Uport, Ubes, Civic. We have contextual attestation. We use attestation because for us, it's the data structure that is going to link identity and data, on-chain and off-chain. So it's like a certificate. Permissions and policies. Permissions policy are core to the layer because, as I say, the goal is to be able to give back the power to the user. So we need to work on that. What does it mean from a UX perspective? What does it mean for application developers? Because they are going to need to integrate with the protocol. Data and metadata, obviously. For us, the data is private by design, so everything is encrypted. And the metadata is something that we use for search and also to create a marketplace or browser when anyone can browse for data and have the quality scoring, we call it the iris, to have a sense of the value behind the data. So iris is like carrot for diamond, if you see the analogy. So when you have a precious gem, you don't really have the dollar amount corresponding, but you can have the carat. And then from the carat, you get the actual market price, depending on the offer and the demand. So this is the same thing. You have your data, they have an iris value, an iris score, and then the market will fix the price if you're going into monetization of your data. So we are enabling that to happen. And data computation, it's a big R&D challenge that we have. How can we enable application to compute on data that is stored decentralized and because it's our goal, encrypted. So computation on encrypted data. So we know that people are looking into this, and we believe that having multiple projects working to build Web3, working to build confidentiality and self-sovereignty for the user is good, because everyone is going to approach the issue from a different point of view. And we are completely open to collaboration. We already started to do that. We have been talking to many of the projects that you can see in the list. So for us, it's just a global research effort to enable Web 3.0 to exist. This is a rapid view of the architecture. You can, again, check it on the technical paper. You have the local storage of the user, could be like the client, could be a mobile, the mobile of the user. The keys are the one that I was talking about with the singleton, and then the user has the responsibility for the key, but the child keys are less critical, and we use them for data sharing depending on the application. So as many applications or services that we have, we will have the corresponding child keys. If we lose them, it's not a problem, because they're only child keys. And we have consensus computers. First one being Ethereum, but we cannot use it for everything because of cost issues. So we're also having a mesh of nodes. These nodes, and I was talking about policy earlier, these nodes are going to be vetted for some of them. For example, if we're doing computation on health data, we're not going to use just any node. So the policy in the user data will be, for example, I'm a French citizen, I'm under GDPR, and I just want my data to be stored in French nodes and computed on French nodes, and maybe even say hospital managed nodes. So policy are going to enable us to do just that. So at first, I was just saying Linnia is for human. It reconnects data to your life. But now we see that we have many challenges. So we know that the project is very ambitious. And we're starting working with other projects. I mentioned that. So Ethereum Scalability Research and Development Subsidy Programs, the Vitalik grant, basically. We're going to apply, and we're going to do that with the actually next project that is going to present to you about state channels. So we're looking into that, and I insist on the fact that for us, privacy by design is important. So our contribution in terms of research is not only going to be about scalability, but how to provide scalable solutions that are protective of the confidentiality of the user by design. Not as something that is complicated and that will be handled later, but at first. This will enable us to be a solution that will help applications that want to be compliant with GDPR and don't really know how to do that, to say, okay, we can use Linnia, because they are tackling this issue at the core. So we can discuss about that if you want. We have a roadmap. You can check it. Maybe it will be in better quality online. And today, what is the current status of the project? We have a team of 10 people. We are in 4 different countries, the US, Canada, Spain, and France so far. We released last week a vision paper and a technical paper, and we are eager to have your feedback on both of them. And if you want, you can go on the website, access resources, go on the GitHub, check the code. And I have 2 more news for you. First one, we have opened a Bouncy challenge, so you can come and try to build a decentralized application over the code that we provided, any kind of application. And we're doing that in partnership with Gitcoin, which are awesome, and they're like providing us with that bounty that we're offering to any of the coolest dApp that is going to apply. Second news, like most consensus projects, we are hiring heavily. So this is just one example of a job that we're trying to fill right now, a protocol engineer for Linnia to work on the backend and the implementation with us. So if you are interested, or if you know someone that will be interested, you just have to go on the website and find the job offer and apply. It's like 2 minutes, and we'll be glad to have a discussion with you, also in real life, as some of my teammates are here, like Amira, so just come and discuss with us. That's it. Thank you for listening, and if you have any question, I'll be glad to answer.
You were talking about the fact that when new creators of apps access the information of people, they have to ask them whether the people are ready to share their information. How is this, I don't know, how do the holders of that information should choose whether they share their information or not?
Yeah, good question. So it is part of the UX effort. So when you're building an application and it goes on the store, and as a user you download it, they have this kind of accepting terms and things like that. So we want to change that and have a separate kind of store, you know. And when you download, when you accept, you just accept specific portion of the permission. So this is something we have to design with the application developers and with the users by doing like a focus group. And then we will define that kind of formula. We don't want it to be too long because when people want to download something, it needs to be quick. But we want it to be like for the people to feel that they're empowered in their decision. So this is the first step. Then they will be able to manage all their permission from another application, like a user-centric application by Linnia, and they will have the list of all the applications connected to their singleton. So they can revoke permission when they want.
So if a time comes when there are like 100 developers asking me for my permission in one day, do I have to like tell them everyone to okay, like separately?
So I believe like when you download application, you just download them one by one. So no one is going to ask you for permission if you're not asking for the service in return. Yeah. However, in healthcare, we are looking into clinical trials, and if you accept before to be contacted by interesting research based on your disease or whatever, you can get notified by very specific people that said your profile is exactly what we are looking for this trial, and you can get like a treatment right now. So, yeah, you're welcome. Yes?
Can you just explain a bit more about the vetted nodes and why you need that? Because kind of what Victor was saying in the previous talk in this hall, that this idea of kind of like restricting storage and computation geographically is like a kind of archaic idea for Web3 and stuff like that.
So, so there's two things. The use of that mesh is because we're doing computation on encrypted data. For now, we don't really know how we are going to do it, but we know that we're going to do it in a cooperative manner, so we don't want to have a centralized computation, so we need a network. So that was the first idea. Then we want those nodes to have some kind of trust level, because we're going to handle personal data. So this is the idea behind vetted nodes. Again, we don't really know what will be the criteria. And then there is the GDPR compliance. If in the law it is written that you cannot store or process data from citizens that are not in this country, then we want, archaic or not, it will be the law. So, for example, in Europe, if they don't want their citizens to have data processed in the US, then you need to comply and want to be able to say to app developers, it's okay, we are handling this feature. You can have it or not, but at least it's available. Yes? I really agree with that, but maybe you will have the opportunity to discover that during your stay in Paris. The regulators are very slow to move on those kind of ideas. Even saying that encrypted data is less critical, it's like they don't really believe in that. So there is like a pedagogical work to be done. And we believe that by meeting them halfway every time, we will be able to progress. And on the second aspect, because you were talking about secure multi-party computation, which is very interesting, my colleague Amira here is a cryptographer, and with other people in Consensus, and actually anyone that wants, we are building research around cryptographic methods for applied use case. because people, and especially developers, we know they are tired of reading like mathematical paper. They just want to know if it's going to be useful for this specific use case. So we are going to try to build that bridge and do like a matrix or a map of that, and it will be available for everyone. Homomorphic, you mean? We're not going to use full homomorphic computation for, performance reasons. Thank you. Yeah. Exactly, especially for, I don't remember the term, but like collision. Like for example, some attributes, you can have them encrypted, but then if they are limited in terms of range, anyone can try to guess them, like the age, the blood type, and things like that. So we're looking into an anonymization scheme and everything with respect to blind storage, blind computation. Yeah. Thank you very much.